from Southwest Florida's news leader. This is Wink News at 11.
What lurks in your drinking water? A neighbor living next to a toxic sludge site comes forward with big concerns about his private well.
It should have been about the lives that we have lost. That's what it's all about. But they don't seem to care.
Plus thousands of rape kits sitting on shelves for years, now being tested. And it's helping crack open cold cases right here in Southwest Florida.
Plus, holiday fun for you and your kids can turn into a holiday disaster in a flash. The warning in Cape Coral, only on the Nightbeat.
And some cold weather to our north. We've been sharing you these numbers all week long. It is working its way into the peninsula of Florida. I'll let you know how cold it gets in your 7-day forecast coming up.
Wink News begins with breaking news.
Breaking right now, deputies are investigating a death in Bonita Springs.
That's right. Let me show you where this is happening. Crime scene experts are combing through evidence right here at Dovewood Court. And that's where we find the Nightbeat's Nicole Valdez. Nicole.
JC, you see these vans here behind me. It started with one, but now we are up to 3 crime scene vans that have shown up to this location here, Bonita Springs, in the last 30 minutes or so. Again, detectives, deputies, and now investigators all still on scene, combing through. We believe it's an apartment on the 2nd story of this building here, but after speaking to neighbors earlier tonight, there was a separate scene at the building just next door where we saw firefighters and ambulances. Many of them told us there was at least one person that was put on a stretcher and taken away from there. We're not sure whether or not that's connected to this death investigation at this building here, but many neighbors we spoke to did say they saw at least one person in the back of one of the deputies' cars. Hear what they had to say.
My dog was acting strange. I looked out the window and all of a sudden I just seen all these police cars. And what I noticed is that I think 2 men were taken in handcuffs, what I saw.
Again, we are still working to find out more information about what exactly happened here. We do know this is a death investigation, but whether or not it's just one person, how they died or they were killed is something we're still trying to find out from investigators right now. Stick with Wink News, and we'll bring you all the updates as soon as we learn more. For now, we're live in Bonita Springs. I'm Nicole Valdez, Wink News now.
Well, thanks, Nicole. And 12 dead, including a 1-year-old baby after the fire started here at a Bronx apartment. But New York City mayor says this could be more horrific news because more people could be dead inside that building. Firefighters are saying the fast-moving flames could be historic in magnitude.
We're here at the scene of an unspeakable tragedy here in the Bronx. There are families that have been torn apart. This is the worst fire tragedy we have seen in this city in at least a quarter century.
About 170 firefighters worked in bone-chilling cold of 15 degrees to rescue people from that building. Water sprayed from those hoses froze into ice on the streets.
Also breaking in the last 20 minutes, we now know the name of a Lehigh Acres woman who died after a crash in Glades County. It happened on State Road 29 just before 2 p.m. Troopers say 72-year-old Migdalia Johnson died. She was 81-year-old Jose Sepulveda's passenger. They say he made an improper U-turn in front of another car, killing Johnson. Charges are pending.
And all new tonight, an airboat ignites into a ball of fire on the water. You're seeing this right here. A viewer sent us this dramatic video from Everglades City. He says this happened around 1 this afternoon and working to confirm it if it involved a tour boat company. So far, there are no reports of any injuries. The viewer believes a gas canister exploded, causing the massive plumes of smoke shooting into the sky there.
Dangerous levels of arsenic could be in people's well water near this Dunbar sludge site, and they don't even know it. Fort Myers leaders say they want to help, but some neighbors say they've lost faith in the city that put their lives at risk decades ago.
No, I'm not letting anyone come in my yard and test my well before I get it tested.
Only the Nightbeat's Oliver Redson is finding out why people are turning elsewhere for answers. Oliver?
Yeah, Amanda, we spoke to a neighbor who's lived here for more than 50 years. He lost his wife and 3 of his next-door neighbors to cancer, but he says he considers himself one of the fortunate ones.
James Sheard has lived in Dunbar longer than many of the homes that now stand here.
I've been here ever since 1960.
And for decades, he's been leading the community's fight for clean water.
When I was part of City View Park Association, I had meetings on top of meetings but nobody wouldn't do anything.
The city first dumped toxic sludge on this site on South Street shortly after Sheard moved in. A half-century later, the site tested positive for cancer-causing arsenic.
If they find that kind of level now, and you go back 20 years or 30 years, just imagine.
Now, the city of Fort Myers is working to test drinking water for dozens of homes, including many of the private wells like the one in Sheard's backyard.
See what you're getting at?
Dozens have written in asking to have their wells tested, but Sheard says he doesn't trust the city to tell the truth.
I don't think they're gonna tell the truth about the result. And I can tell you right now, I'm gonna have my own tested. And then I'm gonna let them test my well.
Sheard lost his wife to cancer, and many of his neighborhood friends as well.
That neighbor, the neighbor over there, they all died with cancer.
But he says more than a financial settlement, he wants the city to admit their mistakes.
It should have been about the lives that we have lost. That's what it's all about. But they don't seem to care. The only thing they care about, well, what it go cost the city.
And the city says it plans to hold a meeting sometime next month to discuss the testing of soil and groundwater. The exact date for that meeting has not yet been announced. Live on the Nightbeat, Oliver Redston, Wink News Now.
Well, thank you, Oliver. New tonight, Collier County deputies arrest 3 teenagers for stealing and vandalizing this soccer legend's vehicle. Earlier this month, we showed you this surveillance video. Abby Wambach posted on her Instagram page. You can see the suspects pull into the driveway at Wambach's home in Naples. We're not naming the teens because they are minors. Investigators say they might be responsible for other burglaries in the Palm River community in North Naples. They say they took more than $5,000 worth of stuff from Wambach and also painted an obscene image on her vehicle.
New tonight, the Trump administration is repealing an Obama-era fracking rule. It would have set new standards on federal land. The Interior Department just posted a notice of repeal today. That's one day before the new rules were set to go into effect. Companies would have been required to disclose the chemicals they use in fracking and take a number of safety steps. The Interior Department says that would be an unnecessary burden on the companies.
And this new preliminary red tide map is raising concerns for your holiday plans. You can see there are several red spots here in Charlotte and Lee counties, and that means high concentrations of algae bloom near our beaches. The final map comes out tomorrow. Count on Week News to keep you posted. And releases from Lake Okeechobee can bring red tide towards our beaches, but there's some good news here. Those releases will slow down again tomorrow. Billions of gallons of fresh water flowed into the Caloosahatchee since Hurricane Irma, but the Army Corps of Engineers says the releases will be back to typical levels for the dry season by next Friday.
Getting justice for thousands of victims and taking bad people off of our streets. Florida is testing cold case rape kits, and in the last 3 days, 2 men have been arrested in Lee County for crimes that went unsolved for decades. The latest is Jesse Hayes Jr. here. He is linked to a sexual assault in 1993. Wink News reporter Brooke Schaefer shows us how the law caught up with the accused monsters.
2 accused rapists arrested, both more than 20 years after the crimes. On Wednesday, Lee County deputies announced the arrest of this man, 46-year-old Paul Jacob, accused of violently grabbing and slapping a 13-year-old girl in 1995 before sexually assaulting and threatening to kill her.
Our goal is to help victims solve cases and get closure, but as well as lock up many of these monsters.
The latest arrest, Jesse Hayes Jr. Deputies say he forced his way into the victim's car at knife point in 1993, threatening to cut her before sexually assaulting her on a dirt road behind a Fort Myers church. But why it took so long to link both suspects to the crimes? Thanks to a backlog of rape kits, a problem Wink News first exposed 2 years ago.
They've tested, I believe, over 5,500, and they've had over 1,300 matches. So just think of the cases that can potentially be solved.
Both kits for these crimes, LCSO confirms, were sent to be tested in 2016. Both after Attorney General Pam Bondi's call to test all backlogged rape kits in the state.
Now that this is in a database, I think it's going to be amazing the help that we're going to be able to do to get these bad guys off the street, lock them up, and help victims.
Brooke Schaefer, Wink News Now.
There were 8,600 backlogged rape kits in the state. The Attorney General's office hopes to have them all processed by June 2019.
And new information tonight about this man who's accused of pretending to be an Uber driver and sexually assaulting a woman he picked up on the FGCU campus. Well, it turns out police had Willie Faust on their radar before. Documents show the DNA of Willie Faust is connected to an alleged rape in 2011, but prosecutors have not charged him for that case. He is facing charges for the incident at FGCU that happened in August.
Well, the eggs have hatched, but the excitement isn't dying down. Here's a live look at Harriet's nest in North Fort Myers at this hour. She is safeguarding her 2 new eaglets in there. An elderly man viciously beaten at a retirement home, and his attacker will walk away without punishment. Prosecutors reveal why. All new next.
And visibilities will be dropping overnight once again. So first thing in the morning, we could wake up with some patchy fog and haze and some low clouds across the area. It won't last though, but get ready for a cooler weekend and a cooler New Year's Day. That's all coming up.
Cape Coral firefighters want you to lay off the fireworks this New Year's Eve. The safety demonstration that'll make you think twice before lighting up, only on the Nightbeat.
And are you thinking about lighting up fireworks this New Year's Eve? Well, think again. The Cape Coral Fire Department held a demonstration about how things can quickly turn sideways, and only the Nightbeat's Nicole Valdez was there to capture the important warning.
You know, it's a fun time, so yeah, you'll see them and hear them everywhere.
But this tradition can get dangerous fast.
The grass is getting drier. You can look around. Vacant lots are beginning to turn brown. That's quick fuel for burn.
Battalion Chief Mike Bush says lighting up on the big night isn't a game.
On average, every year we'll have around 8 fatalities in that, so it is kind of a big deal.
In Cape Coral, certain kinds of fireworks, like bottle rockets, are banned for just that reason. But it's not just the big ones that can pack a punch. Even small, seemingly safer options like sparklers can do serious damage.
This gets up to temperatures from 1,200 to 2,000 degrees.
When it gets close enough to your clothes, it only takes about 30 seconds for it to burn up. And even though this looks even smaller, don't underestimate firecrackers.
We've had instances where hands and appendages have been removed due to this. On average, nationally, we have about 18,000 fires during this time of year.
Some tips: stay far away from homes, grass, and any kind of debris pile. Keep a water source nearby, and don't let kids play with these unsupervised. Nicole Valdez, Wink News, now.
And there are plenty of safe ways to see fireworks this holiday weekend. The Wink News app has a list of places where you can go. There's a list of all the places where you can see fireworks, the parties, the dinners, all of the events going on all throughout Southwest Florida. Just look for the 2 champagne flutes at the top of the Wink News app.
And as you ring in the new year this weekend, your safety, put it first and don't drink and drive. AAA is once again offering its tow-to-go service. They will tow your car and give you a ride home for free, even if you're not a member, but you have to be within 10 miles of your home. Just call 1-855-2-TOW-TO-GO.
This New Year's Eve, expect to see more police in downtown Fort Myers. The police department promises increased presence to keep you safe. There will also be more officers on patrol and conducting traffic enforcement throughout the city. Apple is trying to calm down customers who are angry about sluggish iPhones. The tech giant admitted that it intentionally slows down older phones in order to improve battery life. Apple is now facing lawsuits and released a statement today. The statement says in part, "We know that some of you feel Apple has let you down. We apologize. We have never and would never do anything to intentionally shorten the life of any Apple product or degrade the user experience to drive customer upgrades." Apple says a new software update will come out early next year, giving users more insight into battery life. It's also taking $50 off the price of replacement batteries.
And preventing future flooding, the Imperial River in Bonita Springs is getting cleaned up after Hurricane Irma pushed debris into the water. Flooding has been an ongoing issue in Bonita Springs even before Irma hit. South Florida Water Management District will spend the next 5 weeks at this site.
Well, it is Friday Eve. How are we looking for the weekend?
Yeah, looking good. It's going to cool off. Relative humidity drops. That's the good thing. So if you had been running the air conditioners, you're going to be able to turn those off I think by tomorrow and into the weekend, we hit 80 degrees today. There's the cooler weather. Tampa at 76. Look at Tallahassee at 50 degrees. That was the high today. So that cooler weather is working its way from the north to the south, as it usually does this time of year, after a couple cold fronts that will work its way through southwest Florida. Now let's bring it back this morning. We hit 80 degrees, but it took some time. It was late afternoon when we finally saw the sunshine. Here you go, 7 o'clock this morning. Watch what happens as I advance this. By 8, 9 o'clock, visibility's dropped. We had some fog in the area, some low clouds. They hung around to about lunchtime, and then they finally cleared, and we saw a pretty nice sunset across the area. And
the death of Port Charlotte native and Orange County Deputy Norman Lewis is starting somewhat of a revolution. A state lawmaker says in the search for the man Lewis was chasing, Markeith Lloyd, he thought about a way to use billboards to alert you. State Senator David Simmons has introduced a bill to establish an imminent threat alert that would be a warning to drivers when the public safety is at risk.
Florida kids are staying out of trouble at an historic rate. Governor Rick Scott says juvenile arrests dropped another 7% in the last fiscal year. Overall, the governor says that's a 42-year low. The largest drop was in Orange County with a 15% decrease.
And hours from now, Collier County beach buses become operational. It will stop at 4 locations, taking people to Vanderbilt Beach and Wiggins Park. Their run time is from 8 in the morning to 2:30 p.m., then again from 4:30 to 7 to 10 p.m. The shuttles run on Friday through Mondays.
New tonight, a man wears a mask late at night to break into cars, 56 to be exact. Palm Beach County deputies released this picture. It's now going viral. Deputies arrested Christopher Dillian. He is facing several burglary-related charges. He is in jail without bond.
And from Irma to fires, 2017 hit Southwest Florida hard, but there were other big stories that drew your attention. After the break, the top stories of 2017 that matter the most to you.
Breaking in the last 10 minutes, we're learning the name of the man who died in this crash in Lehigh Acres. Troopers say 70-year-old Seven Moram died on State Road 82 and Alabama Road just before 4 o'clock.
And with just 3 days left in 2017, we look back at what's been a busy year for Southwest Florida, from fires to floods, murders, and gators. You had your eyes glued to the stories that mattered most to you. Wink News reporter Channing Frampton takes a look back at the top 5.
Starting with number 5, 2 people found dead in Lehigh Acres in June. The Lee County Sheriff's Office identified the victims as 22-year-old Brian Keith Patterson and 27-year-old Chantrice Gracia. Wink News is still working to confirm who killed them. Number 4, a Lee County murder-suicide involving a love triangle. The Sheriff's Office says Alejandro Manuel Luis shot Maria de Los Angeles Evaristo Batista outside a CVS pharmacy along Palm Beach Boulevard after finding her there with another man in July. Luis fired at and missed that man before turning the gun on himself. Number 3.
And he looked like he was looking right at me, and I'm looking at him. So I started hitting him right in his eye socket.
This golfer survives an alligator attack in Lee County in February. It happened at Magnolia Landing Golf and Country Club when Tony Arts used a putter to beat the gator off of him. Heating up at number 2. Thousands of homes evacuated and at least 9 destroyed during the devastating wildfires this past spring.
It looked like total Armageddon. I mean, it was nasty and bad, and it was on us like that.
At one point in April, Governor Rick Scott declared a state of emergency in the state as more than 1,500 fires raged from Southwest Florida to the Panhandle. And the number 1 story for 2017... Hurricane Irma. The storm made landfall on Marco Island on September 10th as a Category 3 storm.
And watch what happened with Harvey and that. You just never expect it to happen here. And it's mind-blowing.
A wind gust of 142 miles per hour was reported in Naples, and heavy rain flooded communities across Southwest Florida. For many of our neighbors, the recovery will last well into 2018. Channing Frampton, Wink News Now.
Our Wink News Call for Action team gets results. Viewers like you reached out to Wink News Call for Action, and between our staff and volunteers, we helped get consumers nearly $430,000 back in refunds or replacements. If you have a consumer complaint, you can reach our Call for Action volunteers Tuesday through Thursday from 10 to 1 by calling 1-800-795-9465. You can also fill out a form 24/7 online by going to winknews.com. Just click on the Call for Action tab.
And if you want to take a trip down memory lane in Southwest Florida in 2017, the top web stories and CFA's impacts on lives, they're posted on the Wink News app. Wink News at 11. We'll be right back.